Welcome back, TWU Local 258. Thanks a lot for joining me. Friends, many of you have sent me at least a dozen text messages, emails, etc., specifically in regards to one, I guess, comment or inquiry on Facebook. So allow me to share that real quick so that I can address some of the questions, comments, inquiries, and concerns that you guys have in regards to everything that's happening. So many of you asked me, Roger, you got to make a public declaration, public statement. You got to let everybody know what's going on because, people are saying X, Y, Z, etc. Okay, so allow me to share my screen quickly, you guys, so that you can see what it is I'm talking about. There it is right there. It says, Roger Marenko has had his day in court and has been found guilty on all charges by the International and has been suspended for 3 years, and his name will officially be taken off the ballot for union president. There was significant proof provided as to why this is the verdict. So hopefully people that followed Roger will denounce him for saying what he said about Black people because that is unacceptable. So there's only about half accuracy to that right there, you guys. So the International is not involved in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. The International does not get involved in any way, shape, or form whatsoever unless we are placed in receivership or unless we file an appeal, which then bumps it up to their level. So, with that being stated, let me take a few minutes of your time to address one of the main questions that you guys have been asking. Roger, what happened with Pete? Roger, why is Pete not on your team? Friends, in order to address and answer that question, I have to take you back in time. Okay. A couple of years ago, Pete Wilson and I ran together as a group, as a team, as a slate. He ran for executive vice president, and I ran for president of TWU Local 258. Now, one of the problems started when we came into office and Pete Wilson started discriminating against the African American woman that used to work in the office. She was there for about 20 years. She filed paperwork against Pete Wilson for discrimination and a couple of other issues. Pete Wilson then got into trouble. I had a conversation with Pete and I said, Pete, you can't do that. You can't say this. You can't say that. You have to watch what you say. You got to put a filter on your mouth. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So the lady retired, and her granddaughter then started working with us. Pete Wilson then got into an issue with her pertaining to racial discrimination, and she told Pete Wilson, Pete, I don't feel comfortable answering any of those questions, so stop. I then told Pete, Pete, you have to stop. You got to change your diction. You need to know how to speak, etc., and so forth. So a couple of years ago, when we had the forum to meet the candidates, and we were in front of, I don't know, 100 operators or so, Pete Wilson was asked by one of the operators, Pete, are you racist? Because we know the problems that you're having with the women in office. Are you racist, Pete? And Pete Wilson's response was, no, I'm not racist. When I was 8 years old, I had a little black friend, and my little black friend, he was great. He was black and I was white. And you guys, he was my best friend, actually. And I didn't even realize that he was black, you guys. So you see, that's why I'm not racist. Well, Pete Wilson got himself into a little bit of trouble with that response as well. And for all of you guys that were there, you guys will remember that as well. So then I had another conversation with Pete Wilson. I said, Pete, you can't be doing that. You can't be saying this, etc., and so forth. Last year, Pete Wilson started discriminating against our members based on age. We were at a graduating class, and Pete Wilson looks around and he says, hey, who's the oldest person in the room? Hey, you back there, you look pretty old. You might even be older than me. How old are you? Tell us your age so that I can tell you how much money approximately you're going to be making when you retire. Pete got into hot water for that as well. We told him, Pete, you can't be doing that. These are protected categories that you're talking about, etc., and so forth. Earlier this year, we were on a meeting online, and Pete Wilson, for some reason, told one of the managers while we were on there that he wanted that manager to bless him and to bless the meeting by saying a prayer. Would you pray for all of us? And when I heard this, I was thinking, oh my goodness, Pete, why would you say that? You don't know if this manager is Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, atheist, whatever the case may be. Why would you say that? Religion is a protected category. So Pete has oftentimes, many times, gotten himself into trouble, and as a result, gotten me into trouble. Bringing it to this year, 2022, I asked Pete Wilson earlier this year, I said, Pete, would you like to be on our team? He said, what team? I said, the team is Roger for president, executive vice president, Pete Wilson, and Michael Dennis for treasurer. That's the team. Pete Wilson said, no. Now, I believe I was with Lori Woods Bowman in the room when Pete, for some reason, just rejected and said, "No, I want to do this all on my own." Okay, so I said, "Cool, no problem." I decided to find someone else who wanted to be on the team. Hence the reason you guys have seen the flyers out there with me promoting George Kuza as executive vice president. A couple of months ago, Lori Woods Bowman, chairperson of Woods, organized a meeting with Pete Wilson and myself and Michael Dennis. And she specifically told Pete, managers are coming up to me telling me that you are out there talking against Roger, plotting against Roger, saying Roger's not going to win the election, et cetera, and so forth. What are you doing, Pete? Why are you doing that? Why are you saying this, et cetera? Now, it was very interesting, you guys, because going back to the original question that you guys were asking me in terms of, hey, Roger, what happened with Pete? Roger, why is Pete not on your team? Well, I wanted Pete Wilson on my team, but Pete Wilson constantly continued to discriminate against people, get himself into trouble. And when I flat out asked him if he wanted to be on the team, he said no. The reason why I wanted a team is because it is always 10 times better, easier for us and for the membership as a whole to move forward collectively with a group of individuals that are like-minded, as opposed to one independent person here, another independent person here, who are constantly going at it with each other, right? Building a team is easier because a team has a goal in mind. They have some target that they want to try to reach, achieve, etc. So that's why I wanted to build a team so we can move forward collectively as a group, as a team, as a slate, as opposed to individuals. So that's the reason right there, you guys, why Pete Wilson is not on the team. He chose not to be. I had no idea that he was actually working against me, plotting against me, scheming against me, organizing a coup against me, organizing an overthrow against me, organizing mutiny against me, you guys. And so, unfortunately, it is what it is. It's really sad to see how this one particular person, Pete Wilson, has so much privilege. And I guess maybe it's because of his status in terms of who he is, his background, how he can get away with discriminating against women, discriminating against African Americans, discriminating against religion, discriminating against age-based protected categories, etc. I find it absolutely astonishing the amount of privilege that he has, hence the reason he's still in office. So that answers that question in terms of why Pete Wilson is no longer on the team. I'd like to bring you guys a little bit closer into time here on Thursday, November 17th, 2022. Chairperson Landlau, myself, and Pete Wilson were in the union office, and all the other chairpersons were on Zoom. They were online. For some strange reason, Pete Wilson starts talking about Presidio chairperson Juan Coleman's mother. Why Pete Wilson started talking about Juan Coleman's mother, I have no idea. You need to ask Pete Wilson that question. After Pete Wilson talked about Juan Coleman's mother, Juan Coleman said, "Pete, I have told you twice not to talk about my mother. You have talked about my mother twice. The next time you talk about my mother, I'm going to come down to the union office and I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I'm going to beat the you piece of mother. Don't you ever talk about my mother, you son of a. You hear me, you piece of. Don't give up about you, this job, the union, or anything. If you ever talk about my mother again, I'm going to beat the. You hear me, you piece of." So that is how that meeting went down. And I was absolutely shocked, astonished as to why Pete Wilson would say that. But then again, of course, Pete Wilson is privileged and he can say anything about anyone without being reprimanded. So about 30 minutes later, I left the union office and Pete Wilson told the entire executive board that Roger Marenko was saying the N word. He then asked Chairperson Lan Lau, "Lan, did you hear him say that?" And Lan said, "No, I did not." Pete Wilson then said, "Oh, well, maybe he wrote it down on a piece of paper." And then, did you see him, Lan, writing it down on a piece of paper? Lan Lau said, "No, I didn't see that happen either." "Why are you saying that, Pete?" The next day, on Friday, November 18th, Pete Wilson organized an illegal executive board meeting. The reason why I say illegal executive board meeting is because under our TWU Local 250A bylaws, under Article 8, Section 1, it clearly states that the president organizes all of the executive board meetings. Interestingly enough, in the TWU Constitution, it also says under Article 8, Section 1, that the president organizes all meetings. Similarly, in the same book in the Constitution, under Article 10, Section 1, it also states that the president organizes the executive board meetings. However, Pete Wilson, having the privilege that he has, illegally organized an executive board meeting, illegally organized a vote to suspend Roger Marenko as president, and illegally suspended Roger Marenko as president. Wow, talk about privilege for one person. That is pretty outstanding, amazing. Well played, Pete Wilson. The interesting thing is, when it was Pete Wilson's turn to vote, Pete Wilson abstained because Pete Wilson stated, I can't remember, you guys, if Roger said the N word or if he wrote down the N word. So, what did Pete Wilson do? He started scavenging in the dumpster, in the recycle bin, in the garbage cans. He started going through my documents and he started cutting up little pieces of paper, words, letters, phrases, etc. And he then doctored up a Frankenstein piece of paper with the N word in there. He then went to go find a forensic handwriting expert analyst to come in on, let's see, on Wednesday, December the 7th, to say that that was Roger Marenko's writing. And I thought, wow, Pete Wilson, well played. Very interesting how you did that with all of your privilege that you have grown up with, that you have had all of your life. Absolutely amazing. Put together a doctored up Frankenstein piece of paper with my writing on there so that you can say that it was me. And I'm sure that Pete Wilson is going to be sharing that document with you guys at some point in time in the near future. So, Pete, show it. Go ahead. Show everything that you got, please. So, you guys, that brings me to the next sort of item. I made a couple of little highlights here, a couple of little bullet points, etc. I received a letter from Bertrina Davis. Let's see if I can share my screen quickly so that I can show you guys this letter. Where is it? Right there. Okay. This is the letter that I received from Bertrina Davis dated November 21. The interesting thing about this, I'm not going to read it to you guys because it's kind of long. You guys can go ahead and pause it. The interesting thing about this letter is many different errors, what I consider to be violations of the Constitution, and just inconsistencies. So first and foremost, this is not the letterhead for TWU Local 258. It has people on here who are no longer in TWU Local 258, and it has people who are actually missing on the executive board from TWU Local 258. Under the charges here, it says charges included but not limited to. And see, that right there is a violation in and of itself, because under the TW Constitution, Article 19, it clearly stipulates that the charges have to be specifically stated and indeed limited to only those charges. If you guys look here on charge letter J in the Constitution says using the name of the local union or the international union or its emblem for any unauthorized purpose. However, what you're seeing here on screen is a completely different charge. So when I was preparing for my charges, I couldn't understand what was going on here because this document was written so unprofessionally from a recording secretary. I could not believe what I was reading. Next up, the paragraph that says down here, the TWU Local 258 Executive Board decision was made that Executive Board Roger Marenko will be suspended pending trial. So Executive Board is not my title. My title is President. And it states here something very interesting. Will be suspended pending trial as president. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. The reason why that's interesting is because under the Constitution, it specifically states what a trial consists of. Article 20, you guys, it says, in the event that the local executive board decides that the charges warrant a trial, the local executive board shall elect a trial committee of 3 members in good standing and shall designate a member in good standing to present the charges before the trial committee. So I mentioned that to you because my rights have been severely violated. The Constitution has been severely violated, and the bylaws have been severely violated. I have this transcript here, which is a very interesting piece of writing here. It's about 30 pages long that was sent out from Bertrina Davis in regards to the illegal meeting that was held on November 18th. And I'm going to read to you one sentence that I found to be very interesting on page, what is this, 13. It says, and I quote, Pete Wilson, you're the executive vice president. We're going to hold you accountable for enforcing these laws under the Constitution. So, Pete Wilson, we are indeed going to be holding you personally accountable and responsible for upholding the laws under the Constitution and under the bylaws, which you have violated, severely violated. I mean, to the last rule, law, and policy. This is Pete Wilson's charges, not excuse me, not charges, agenda here, and it specifically says trial of President Roger Marenko. So when I walked in for my supposed trial on Wednesday, December the 7th, friends, I had no trial. There were no three members in good standing there. It was the entire executive board that was there. I did not get a fair hearing, a proper trial, as is stated in the many documents that I have received. So I bring that to your attention for many different reasons. Many of you I have heard say and call me, text me, email me, and I've even seen it posted online that you guys want to decertify the union. Friends, let us not go that route. Let us go through the process, you guys, the process of filing an appeal with the International Union. The International has not been involved, so regardless of what anybody might think, no, they have not been involved. Let us allow them to get involved, you guys, to come down here. And the last time that they did, they placed everyone in receivership, all of us in receivership, because people were doing things bad, wrong, illegally, etc. So let's let the international come down here. Let's let Big Brother and Big Sister come down here and clean house, clean things up. Let's give them the ability to do the right thing in terms of putting things in order. Friends, you guys remember before I even stepped foot in the door, I was suspended. Before I even stepped foot. Then, before contract negotiations, right before contract negotiations, I was suspended again. Then, another year into the service, into my term, brought up on more charges. Now, just a couple of days before the election, brought up on charges again, removed from office for 3 years, and removed my name from the election. How illegal do you think that is, you guys? So I will be filing an appeal. So, you guys, let's back off from the word decertification. Let's go through the process, you guys, in terms of doing things the right way. It's very interesting. I've made so many little notes here and there about what's going on and what's happening, who's doing this, etc. So you guys already know the people that are doing this. This is dirty politics that has been going on since the beginning, and this is the dirtiest I think that anybody in Local 258 has ever witnessed. Probably the most senior veteran operator here would be able to attest to the fact that the elections in December 2022 are probably the dirtiest that they have ever seen in history. I have been brought up on more charges than every local 258 president in history combined. I have been suspended more than any president has ever been suspended in TWU Local 258 history. I am probably more hated than all the other presidents combined. I find that to be absolutely astonishing. I'm either doing something really good or something really bad. And in this document here, I'm going to point to this document again, this official transcript that was sent out by Bertrina Davis. I find it interesting because, friends, it has now turned from dirty politics to dangerous politics. And when I mean dangerous politics, I mean threats against my life from Robert Gaynor constantly bullying me, intimidating me, harassing me, talking about how many guns he owns, talking about pulling triggers and the hammer. I mean, it's just absolutely astonishing when I was reading this. So I just, you guys, I had to file a report against this because I cannot understand how someone would threaten someone else's life over a little bus driving job, you guys. If that's the case, this is not worth it for me, and I will take a step back because for somebody to be threatening me with my life over a bus driving job, I'm sorry, you guys, it's gone into a different level. I understand dirty politics and it sucks, but when it gets down to this level here, I I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't do that, you guys. Just the other day on Wednesday, December the 7th, it was interesting because when I walk in there, there was a stenographic record there, a stenographer recording everything. And I was told specifically, and this is going to come out in the public records, that if I want to take you out, or something to the effect of this, if I want to take you out, I don't need a gun. I can just climb over the table and take you because nobody's going to stand in my way because I bench press more than 525 pounds. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe you just said that on the record, threatening me again on the record. So, you guys, it's now gotten to a point of critical mass and it's really scary for me. I let you guys know because if anybody else would like to file a report of harassment, intimidation, bullying, threats, whatever the case may be, I'd be more than willing to walk into the office with you for moral support and share my statement that I have here. Okay, you guys. So it's gotten to that point and that level in terms of dirty politics and dangerous politics, and it's really scary because I don't do that. All I ever tried to do was to bring good contracts, safer contracts, healthier contracts for TWU Local 250A, and putting my life on the line for this, being threatened for it, is absolutely sad, and I will not take part in anything like that, you guys. I can't. I can't. So, the political enemies that have been against us since day one are still at it. And it's interesting because Pete Wilson threw this N word out there and he's been reeling in some people, and some people bit hard on the N word. They bit hard on this man's bait and he's still reeling them in and they're loving it. And even if Pete Wilson said, "You guys, I'm sorry, I made all that stuff up," ha 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 ha, guess what? They wouldn't care because they're out to get me. This was Pete Wilson's goal and plan for many months since the beginning of 2022. And this is his outcome. This is the amount of privilege that he is able to show, the amount of privilege that he is able to wield and yield constantly, time and time again, even after all of the discriminating situations that he has been involved in. So, you guys, I'd like to take this time to ask you to please vote for George Kuza as executive vice president. Let's show Pete Wilson that his privilege has now come to an end. Let's show Pete Wilson that his privilege is no longer welcome here. So let's cast our votes on Monday, December the 12th, 2022, and let's bring George Kuza into office, you guys. There's another, I keep hearing, oh, you know what? There's Luke Jones. Luke Jones is running for office. Friends, I'd like to share Luke Jones's what do you call this campaign flyer with you guys, just real quick, okay? Now, when you've been here 35 years and you cannot even spell the letters TWU, friends, you do not have my vote or my support, my endorsement, or anything else. So I will not go down the list of all of the other errors here. I will simply leave it up here so that you can pause it and tell me if you can find all of the other errors. For someone that's been here 35 years who cannot spell the letters TWU, you do not have my support in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. That's why I'm not even considering him a candidate in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. So, friends, let's get George Kuza into office as the next executive vice president. I received a letter today which you guys wanted me to address. Here it is right there. Let me see if I'm sharing my screen. Screen share. Oops, that's the Luke Jones flyer. Okay, this is the letter right here that you guys received that says, "Dear brothers and sisters, a complaint was filed by a member of TWU Local 250A against President Roger Marenko." That member is, of course, Pete Wilson. Uh, or was it Pete Wilson? I can't remember if it, who was it? Was it Pete or Robert Gaynor? Both of them. Well, yeah, they both conspired. A complaint was filed by a member of TWU Local 250A against President Roger Marenko. Pete Wilson, please feel free to share all of the documents that you have so that everybody can see. I mean, we need full transparency on this, Pete. It says the executive board investigated the charges, evidence was uncovered, and a trial was held on December 7th, 2022. That's false. There was no trial that was held on December 7th, 2022, because there was not a trial committee. It says during the trial, evidence was presented, witnesses spoke, and President and Roger Marenko was allowed to defend himself and cross-examine witnesses. The executive board decided that the actions of Roger Marenko violated the Constitution, Article 19, which states the following: enumerated acts are set forth as typifying conduct unbecoming a member of the union. Roger Marenko was found to have violated F, G, J, and N, and his actions were becoming of an officer, were unbecoming of an officer. Per Article 21 of the TW Constitution, the Executive Board unanimously voted to take appropriate action and removed Roger Marenko as the president of TWU Local 258 and suspend Roger Marenko for 3 years. Roger Marenko will not be allowed to run for office in 2022. That's a lie. The Executive Board did not vote unanimously, you guys. The election, and feel free to request or demand to see the notes and the minutes. The election will go on as scheduled on December 12th. The new officers will be installed into office on January 18, 2023 at the first general membership meeting of the year. For more information, please see your chairperson or shop steward. Sincerely, TWU Local 258 Executive Board. Now, this is the letter that Pete Wilson sent out. Look at the signatures on this one, you guys. It's very interesting. So it says here, Executive Vice, we're just going across. Executive Vice President Pete Wilson, Secretary Treasurer Michael Dennis, and signed by Recording Secretary Katrina Davis. Look at Michael Dennis's signature right there. It says VC. So I had to Google this real quick, and let me share with you what is the meaning of VC. It says VC is used, and you guys are seeing my screen there. It says VC is used with a signature to indicate that the signer was under duress. The signer uses such markings to signal that the agreement was made under duress and that it is their belief that it invalidates their signature. So, with that being stated, I want to say this. Michael Dennis signed this under duress, meaning he probably did not want to have his life threatened as well, just like my life was threatened. Hence the reason why I had to file a report to try to protect myself. So, Michael Dennis, I'm sorry that you had to sign this document under duress. Next row is Cable Car Chairperson Kevin Davis. He signed. Flynn Chairperson Anthony Ballister. It looks like for some reason Kevin Davis signed on behalf of Flynn Chairperson Anthony Ballister. I had no idea that you could sign multiple signatures, but since this is Pete Wilson's administration and Pete is privileged, he can do whatever it is that he wants, whether it's legal or illegal. Next, Chairperson Lan Lau. Not sure if that's her signature. Next, Azalea Creek Chairperson Luke Jones. Next, Kirkland Chairperson Teresa King, signed. Next, miscellaneous Chairperson Alan Nasir, not signed, not sure why. MME Chairperson Ramon Galdames, signed. Patrol Chairperson Robert Gaynor, signed. Presidio Chairperson Juan Salazar Coleman, not signed, don't know why. Woods Chairperson Lori Woods Bowman, not signed, not sure why. So where it states under Pete Wilson's, what is this paragraph here? The executive board unanimously voted to take appropriate action. That right there is a lie, as you guys can see here. Michael Dennis, I'm so sorry that you felt threatened, that you had to sign off on this document. Pete Wilson, I will ask you to do me a favor and reprint this out with the proper signatures only one signature per person, please. Put out something new, something that's a little more valid, unless you feel that you are that privileged that you don't have to do that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen quickly. You guys, I would like to ask you to please help me remove Pete Wilson and his privilege, position, title, status from executive vice president. Let's get George Kuza in there. In terms of president, although I have had my name illegally removed, we are going to move forward with an appeals. That's what we are going to do, you guys. We are not going to organize a decertification. We have to go through the process, you guys. So please, I'm asking you to stick with me on this and let's move forward accordingly. In terms of the president, some of you have asked me, hey, what should I do? What should I do? I want to tell you guys this. When I was at the forum to meet the candidates at the very end, I shook the hand of Ron Austin and I said, Ron Austin, I said, if I lose the election, I hope that it is to you. Now, never did I expect my name to not be on the ballot, but since it is, I am asking you to please lend a helping hand to Ron Austin so that he can be elected as the next president of TWU Local 250A while we move forward accordingly with the process of appeals so that the international could come in, hopefully put this union under receivership again, and organize another election, even if it's just an election for the president, the office of the president. Okay, you guys, that's what I'm going to be asking of all of you guys to help me do. A couple of more notes that I would like to mention here is I'm getting close now. I've been recording now for I think almost 30 minutes, and there's nothing really much else that I could say to you guys. I think I've answered all of your questions. I've addressed the doctored up Frankenstein letter that Pete Wilson created, the forensic signature person that he had join us on the meeting. Pete Wilson, feel free to save a copy of this video so you can use later against me in a court of law or whatever it is that you feel that your privileges entitle you to. It will be up there for as long as possible. Friends, I would like to leave you with one last, I guess, just comment on my behalf. You all have my phone number, 415-378-1208. Call me any point in time. This is not the end of Roger Marenko. This is not the end of you. This is not the end of us. This is not the end of TWU Local 258. This is just another stumbling block, another hurdle, another obstacle, another speed bump in the way. And we face those every single day. And although my life has been threatened due to this silly little bus driving job, although I have been harassed, bullied, intimidated constantly for the past 5 years, it has been an amazing 5 years. I have done everything that I possibly can to bring you education, to bring you light in terms of more constant communication, updates through Facebook, through the mass texting, through the emails, through the social media, through our Union Strong app, through our Facebook, not Facebook, I already said that, through our website, you guys. I've done everything and I am very, very proud of how far we have come. We have built a union, we have built a team. And because of that, I'm not angry about what's going on, you guys. Not angry at all. I'm actually happy. I'm excited about the process because it's going to work out accordingly for us as long as we move forward together as one group, as one team, as one entity, constantly moving forward, striving for that one goal, achieving that one goal that we are all wanting for, that we are all needing. And during these holiday seasons, during this holiday season, during the uh, Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, friends, what I am going to be doing is I am going to be enjoying that little 19-month-old boy. I don't know if you could hear him crying in the background, but what I'm going to be doing is enjoying that 19-month-old little boy. I'm going to be smothering him with hugs, kissing him to death, and teaching him English and Spanish, teaching him everything that I possibly can. That's how I am going to be enjoying my holiday season, the rest of the days that are left in 2022 and in this month. And I ask you also, if you are one of those haters that has so much anger and hate against Roger, change your attitude, change your mentality. There's only a couple days left in 2022, only a couple of days left in the entire month of December. The holiday seasons are coming up. Be happy, be cheerful, be thankful, be grateful. Spend it with your loved ones. Don't spend it on transit talk. Don't spend it bringing people down. Don't spend it vilifying each other. Don't spend it destroying one another. Friends, let's build ourselves up. Let's think positive. Let's be positive. So, with that being stated, you guys, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to hug that little boy to death. I'm going to kiss that little boy to death. I'm going to smother him as much as I possibly can. And that's how I'm going to enjoy my holiday season. And I challenge you to do the same with your family, because this is not the end of me, this is not the end of you, and this is not the end of us. This is simply another stumbling block in the road. We will get through this together. And once again, I ask you for your support in terms of voting for George Kuza for Executive Vice President, Michael Dennis, Secretary Treasurer, Ron Austin for President, and of course, Lori Woods Bowman for Recording Secretary of TWU Local 258. Lori Woods Bowman has done an absolutely outstanding job, you guys. Now that she is the chairperson of the Working Women's Committee, in less than half a year, Lori Woods Bowman created a book for the Working Women's Committee. Lori Woods Bowman is actually on the platform. She's been on the platform for ever. She hasn't been out on leave like the other candidate that has been out on leave. You guys, this is what we need in office. Lori Woods Bowman has now placed TW Local 258 at the international stage. You guys, I don't know if you knew that. We have now been put on the international stage thanks to Lori Woods Bowman, thanks to her bringing on board Felicia Shelton from Woods. They are now working on a quarterly magazine for the Working Women's Committee. They're now working on pamphlets so that we can bring more members into the Working Women's Committee. They're going to be working on a newsletter for TW Local 258. Friends, that is exactly what we need in office. People that are like minded, spirited, good hearted, emotional about the things that we do. Let's get rid of the violence. Let's get rid of the people with the guns. Let's get rid of the people that are threatening you and I. Let's get rid of the people that are fighting with bullets. Let's start fighting with our ideas, you guys. Let's start fighting with our hearts. Let's come together and organize ourselves. Let's get the right people in office so that they can do the right things in office for us, you guys, for us. So we can move forward together, collectively, as a group, as a team. That's why I decided to run on a slate with a team so that we can move forward collectively, together, steadfast, firm, in one direction, you guys, always forward, never backwards. So, with that, I want to say thank you very much. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, you guys, to all of you. And as always, stay strong, stay safe out there. Call me anytime. We are going to get through this. I promise you, this is not the end of us. Be looking out for more videos in the very near future.